My name is Samantha Bass. I'm owner of Samantha's Modeling. You are watching AccessTV.org.
Hi, I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning, and my name is Cleo Duke-Wright, and I'm the owner of Cole Books at 677 Blue Hills Avenue in Hartford. And I haven't been, this is Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner. Haven't seen you in a while, but I decided I'm going to read you some really nice stories today. I found this wonderful book, and it's basically for storytellers and adults and people who just love to tell stories to children. And it's called Storytelling in Emergent Literacy, Fostering Multiple Intelligence. And probably a lot of you have seen this book if you're storytellers or people who work in schools. And Susan Straddle Brand and Jeannie M. Donato wrote these books, and I hope I said those names correctly. If I have not, I'm so very sorry. Give an apology to the authors. In this book, goes by month stories, and it gives activities and hints to the storyteller. And I wish I could do some of these activities with you, but I can't do it today. But maybe sometimes if you come up to the bookstore, we can read a story and do activities and have a lot of fun. But this morning I'm going to read you a story that I kind of fell in love with because this is May, and this is the month of Mother's Day. And I had a wonderful Mother's Day, and I hope all of you mothers have had a wonderful Mother's Day, and those who gave their mothers presents and hugs and kisses on that very special day. These stories are for you. And this is about the little bunny who wished for red wings. See, I have this because I wanted to pretend that I had red wings and I could sort of fly, you know, with the little bunny. But here we go to the story. Once upon a time, there was a little bunny with long pink ears, a whisker-like nose, a bit of a powder-puffed tail, and the softest of cuddly fur. He lived with his mummy in a cozy little hole at the foot of an old butternut tree. But he was not happy, for he was always wishing that he could be someone else. I kind of used to be like that too. One day, little bunny and his mommy saw their neighbor, Mr. Bushytail, scampering from limb to limb, gathering nuts. "Oh, mommy," cried little bunny, "I wish that I had a tail like Mr. Bushytail's. Then I could climb trees." His mommy just shook her head, folded her arms around him, and said, "Funny bunny, I love you just the way you are." Down by the pond, Mrs. Puddle Duck was teaching her fuzzy little ducklings how to swim. Little bunny said, "Oh, mommy, I wish that I had red rubber duck shoes like Mrs. Puddle Duck. Then I could swim. Mommy Bunny just shook her head, folded him into her arms, and said, "Funny Bunny, I love you just the way you are." When he saw Mr. Porcupine, little Bunny sniffed. "I wish I had a prickly coat like Mr. Porcupine. Then no one would ever bother me." Mommy Bunny just shook her head, folded him into her arms, and said, "Funny Bunny, I love you just the way you are." They had to plug their ears when Mr. Skunk passed by, and little Bunny sniffed. "I wish that I could spray like Mr. Skunk, then no one would dare to come near me." Funny Bunny's mommy just shook her head, and she folded him into her arms and said, "What? Funny Bunny, I love you just the way you are." They had Funny Bunny's mommy shook and said again, "I love you just the way you are. Now why don't you go off and play? But remember, be home before it gets dark." Little Bunny twitched his nose and hopped away to play. Old Mr. Groundhog heard little Bunny saying, "I wish I wasn't a bunny." "Is that so?" replied Old Mr. Groundhog, as he slowly pulled out a large gold pocket watch. He opened it and held it closely to his nose. "You should be careful what you wish for, you know. It might come true." Old Mr. Groundhog snapped his pocket watch closed and said, "If it's a wish you want, follow the path through the forest to the clearing. There you'll find a magic wishing pond in an old mossy stump. Look at your reflection in the water, make a wish, turn around 3 times, and your wish will come true." "Thank you, Mr. Groundhog," little Bunny called as he hopped away. He came to a clearing where sunlight shone down through the trees onto the wishing pond. Little Bunny thought to himself, "My mama always says, 'Funny Bunny, I love you just the way you are. But I wish I wasn't a bunny.'" A little red bird was perched on the edge of a stump, splashing in the sparkling water. "Oh my!" cried little Bunny. "I wish that I had red wings like that little bird." Little Bunny hopped up to the stump and gazed into the water until he saw his reflection. I wish I had red wings," he said. He turned himself around 3 times. 1, you count with me, 2, 3, and waited. Very soon his shoulders started to feel strange, like when a tooth is growing in. "Oh, oh, oh," he squeaked. "What is happening?" When the little bunny peered into the magic wishing pond, he saw 2 great, enormous red wings. "Oh!" squealed little Bunny with delight as he flapped his wings, but instead of flying, he flopped on his nose. "Oh my!" cried little Bunny. "This will take some getting used to." Fly, and off he hopped and flopped to show his mommy. By the time little Bunny got home, it was so dark that he could hardly see his little house. When he knocked on the door, his mommy opened it, but the white fur with flapping red wings frightened her. "Monster! Monster!" she cried and locked the door. A tear dropped from little Bunny's eye. His own mommy didn't know him. He was all alone in the dark with nowhere to go. Flapping his wings, he fluttered up into the treetops where Mr. Bushytail lived. He knocked on the door and called out, "Mr. Bushytail, may I please stay with you tonight? My mommy doesn't recognize me. She always told me, 'Funny Bunny, I love you just the way you are.' Now I am different and I have nowhere to spend the night." Mr. Bushytail poked his head out of the hole and scolded, "You're not little Bunny. Bunnies can't fly. Go away." And he slammed the door. Little Bunny dropped to the ground and cried, "Where could I go?" He hopped and flopped down to the pond, but when poor Mrs. Puddle Duck saw him coming, she honked and hissed, flapping her wings to keep him away, for she had never seen such an odd-looking thing in her life. No one recognized little Bunny with his flapping red wings. Mr. Porcupine rolled into a prickly ball, and Mr. Skunk started to lift his tail when he saw him near. Crying, little Bunny stumbled along in the dark until he came to old Mr. Groundhog's hole. "Oh, Mr. Groundhog, sir," cried little Bunny, "I wished for red wings, and now no one knows who I am. Not even my mommy. She always told me, 'Bunny, Bunny, I love you just the way you are.' It's cold and dark and I have nowhere to go. May I please stay with you?" begged the little bunny. Wise old Mr. Groundhog recognized little Bunny's voice and answered, "Certainly, come right in." But little Bunny could not fit into Mr. Groundhog's house. "I can't get in," cried little Bunny. "My wings are too big." "Fold them up," called Mr. Groundhog. Little Bunny folded up his wings and crawled into Mr. Groundhog's hole. Now, groundhogs like to sleep on beech nuts, but they make lumpy beds for little bunnies with bumpy red wings. All night long, little Bunny tossed and turned. The next morning, little Bunny was crying. "Oh, Mr. Groundhog, I wish I never had red wings. Why, my own mommy doesn't even know me, and I don't know what to do. She always told me, 'Bunny, Bunny, I love you just the way you are.'" "Are you sure you don't want your red wings?" asked Mr. Groundhog. "I'm sure," cried little Bunny. "I was happier when I was a bunny." Wise old Mr. Groundhog pulled out his pocket watch and looked at it carefully. He nodded his head and said, "Let's see here. There may still be enough water left for one more wish if you hurry." "Thank you, Mr. Groundhog," cried little Bunny, and off he hopped and flopped back to the wishing pond. There little Bunny found just enough water to see his face in it and wished his red wings off. He turned around 3 times. Come on, let's count. 1, 2, 3, and soon they were gone. Little Bunny hopped home and his mommy recognized him right away. When he told her the whole story, she nodded her head, folded him in her arms, and said, "Funny Bunny, I love you just the way you are." And little Bunny never wished to be like somebody else ever again. Oh, I love that story. Do you like that story? Come on to the bookstore sometime and find out just what the activities are. They really are wonderful. And if you're interested in this book, oh, please come. Give me a call at 860-69, oh gosh, my own number, 860-690-1711. And I'll give you the information on how to get this book if you're interested in it. Now we're going to take a little break, so I'll see you in a few minutes. Stay there, I'll be right back.
Hi, and welcome to AccessTV.org. I'm your host from Shaping the Next Generation, Naima Jackson. Welcome to AccessTV.org. We're your hosts, Naima Jackson.
And I'm Elijah Williams.
Thank you for tuning in to Shaping the Next Generation. Today's special guest is Ms. Vicki Gallen-Clark.
Ms. Vicki will stop by on the show to talk about her role in the Blue Hills Civic.
Now, if you haven't heard about Blue Hills Civic Association, you should definitely look into it. It's located on Asylum. Now, if you don't know anything about Blue Hills, you should know that Blue Hills Civic Association, they will definitely help you get a step forward in your future. They'll help you figure out what you want to be in the future, because they definitely helped me. I figured out what I want my career to be, I figured out what college I want to go to, and I figured out what I want to major in. Blue Hills helped me because they helped me learn how to write a resume, a cover letter. They prepared me for an interview to get a job. Blue Hills Civic Association is definitely the perfect program for our youth today. Now, thank you for joining us on AccessTV.org. I like AccessTV.org because they offer us highlights on our local community that you don't get from Channel 3 or Fox News. They also gave us highlights from sports like track and field. So thank you so much for joining us. And all the youth out there, you should definitely join us at Access TV and definitely check out Blue Hills Civic Association, because it will help you, it will motivate you to get out there, look into our programs, and it will help you shape your future.
Well, welcome back to Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner. And I just have one little short story to tell you. But I wanted to ask you a question first. I want to say, do you know what wisdom is? You know, sometimes I don't know what wisdom is. Sometimes they say this person's wisdom wise or that person's a wise. But sometimes there's really a wise person. And you can think of the wise person in your life. Who's a wise person in your life? And when I was thinking about it, I thought, well, maybe, let me see, who is the wisest person in my life? And I really do have to say that it was my grandma and my Auntie Bert who were the wisest people in my life. They seemed to be so wise and always seemed to have the right answer when I was coming up. Well, I'm going to tell you about 4 wise men. This happened long ago in India. There were 4 wise men. 3 of them, they got up in the morning and they read books. They read books in the morning. They read books in the afternoon. They read books in the evening. They read. And when they got finished reading, at night they would go to bed, get up, and read. Do you do anything like that? I don't think so. Either do I. I love to read, but not that much. Not all the time and 24/7, and all I do is go to bed. But then there was a 4th wise man. And he loved to go out in the late afternoon, and he loved to talk to the people and learn all about them and ask questions. Why is your garden so big? because they were wise and they knew about agriculture. And he would go by and he would say, "Why are your animals so healthy?" And they would answer because they were really smart in husbandry. And the other three, they laughed at him and they said, "Why are you going out asking people questions? All you gotta do is open a book." And they stayed together for years and years. And finally, the three said, "We have to go out and prove our knowledge so we could be like famous all over the world. And people will know how wise we are. Maybe we ought to go ask people what to do." So they went to the fourth wise man. They told him what they wanted to do. They all packed up their things and they went to a distant land. And they asked the people, "What would you do to prove that we are wise, that we have great knowledge?" The people said, "Go down the road and look behind that tree and you'll find the answer." So they went down that road. And behind that tree was all these bones. And the first wise man says, "Oh, I know exactly what this is. This is a tiger. I am going to reassemble all of these bones perfectly." And he worked and he worked. And he perfectly put all of those bones together. And the second wise man says, "Hey, I will put the organs and I will put the fur or the skin over this animal." And he worked all night and he put that skin over that animal. Well, the third wise man says, "I know how to blow the breath of life into this animal." Because he was very technical and he knew all of these things and he had read all of these books. And he said, "I know how to breathe life into this animal." Well, the fourth wise man said, "I don't think you ought to do that. I don't think that's a very wise thing to do." And they looked at him and laughed. "Of course, we will be known all over the world if we do this." "Well, I don't know. I don't think that's a very wise thing to do." They said to him, "We will do this. I can do this." And so he worked and he breathed into this animal. He breathed. Oh my goodness. And the fourth wise man very calmly climbed up a tree and sat up at the top of the tree looking down at the third wise man trying to breathe life into this animal, into this tiger. How could he breathe into this tiger? Well, they do not know. "It is dangerous. Do not do this," said the fourth wise man. "You do not know. We will be famous." And so he brought the animal back to life. This mighty tiger, he brought him back to life. And the tiger, he was just shaking. And he had mighty teeth. And he turned. Really, he was still kind of groggy and looked over at the three wise men. And he showed his teeth, but I don't think he was ready to go after them, but he showed his teeth and he started walking toward them and they all ran off. And the fourth wise man stood right up in that tree while that big tiger was down there and he was looking at him. got his bearings, he walked off. And the wise man, the fourth wise man, came down. And he went on into the village. You know what those other three didn't have? Could you guess what the other three didn't have? I can almost hear you. Say it a little louder. Do you know what those other three didn't have that the fourth wise man had? What was that? All right, I'll tell you. I know you're saying it anyway. They didn't have common sense. You know what? You could be the smartest person in the world, but if you don't have any common sense, it's all for naught. You have to be whole. You have to have common sense, and you have to have book smarts. And you'll get along just fine in this world. Well, we're coming to an end of Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner. And I have to say goodbye till next week. But next week, we have a guest storyteller from the Storytelling Festival. And we're going to sit here and talk. Her name is Liz Gerber. So you remember that name, Liz Gerber, so you'll know next week she'll be here. I have known her for years. She is a wonderful storyteller, and you're going to love hearing her stories. So I'll see you next week. Remember, come back next week on Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner and visit Call Books at 677 Blue Hills Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut. Have a great day.